Today, I'm going to come to grips with a few realities and personal flaws within my hobby. Alright guys, first thing I want to show you is this picture is completely unedited, strictly painting time. Each one of these clips is me live painting, and you can see on the right middle side under the video is 7 hours, 37 minutes, and 51 seconds of footage time. Now the second image that I'm going to show you guys is actually edited footage that I've gone and removed me turning on and turning off the video camera. This is my edited time, and it ended up being 7 hours, 31 minutes, and 15 seconds of actual strict paint time. So I was an hour and 31 minutes over my goal. So that kind of leads into me declaring my problems here. I take too long to paint, straight up. There are many factors that kind of go into this. I only get to paint at night or during my live streams on Twitch. Sometimes I end up taking months to finish a complete project, right? The thing is, I'm a stay-at-home father. I have a 2.5-year-old nerdling. He's awesome. My wife works full-time. And before this whole COVID crap, she was gone every day for 8 hours, and I was sitting on the couch making sure that a 2.5-year-old human being was not jumping off the couch and breaking his neck. Who decided that was a good idea? I don't know. But I'm super proud of being a father, and I wouldn't change that aspect of my life at all. Also, for the last few months, I've been studying to get my real estate license behind the scene to kind of help out with supplementing the income a little bit, as well as give me another activity, as if I don't have enough things to do. Of course, naturally, prepping for conventions, not only am I a teacher at Gen Con, Adepticon, Warfare Weekend, and numerous other conventions, I love going to these conventions and just hanging out with friends and shooting the shit. I've got to prepare for all of my classes for each convention, plus paint miniatures for the competitions, plus prepare all of my plans for the entire convention. On top of that, I also run a Patreon that is focused on teaching. I do one-on-one classes each month with multiple students. No lesson is less than an hour long. Some are 2 or 3. So I've got to sprinkle those into that little window of time at night around 8 o'clock when the kids start settling down and I can slink off to my studio to do work. I had mentioned competition pieces, and if you think I'm OCD, you should see me paint a competition piece. Of course, there's always keeping up with stream-related stuff, behind the scenes, after hours, etc. It's not just turn on a button, sit there and chat and hang out with all you great people. There's a lot of things when you're a full-time content creator that you have to keep up with: promotions, graphics, bot commands, codes, etc. There's all kinds of stuff that you need to coordinate while you're doing something like this. Everybody thinks it's easy, you just hit the button, go live, but some of us have a lot that we put into our shows, and so that takes time to create behind the scenes. And naturally, being a husband and a father, family time plays into factor too. I'm a homeowner. I've got to keep that home up, so I've got yard work to do, family to hang out with, just your normal human things. So I end up making these projects that normal people who are painting armies can finish them in a month. Sometimes crazy people can finish them in 24 hours. I don't know how. I can't even build a freaking marine in an hour. It can take me years to finish a 2,000 point army. Like literally years. That's how crazy slow I am and OCD about every aspect of it. So I've got a lot going against me already as it is. So I set out to paint this miniature significantly quicker than I normally would without compromising any quality and be proud of what I had put out. I wanted to paint this bad boy in about 6 hours. I figured that would be fair. If I'm truthful with myself, let's say it would maybe take me 20 hours to paint on a normal Duff cycle, condensing all the bullshit around it to just raw paint time, 20 hours, probably, something like that. So I figured 6. I don't know how I came up on the number, but I'm OCD weird, so 6 sounded like a good number. I'm not going to go into that tangent. 6 it was. With this one, I really wanted the detail to be there because I wanted to impress, because these miniatures are badass. They're beautiful miniatures. And I'm not going to do a promo video with this guy. Like, yeah, your product's sweet. I'm going to put it on a pedestal for you real quick. And, oh, it looks like I slapped a base layer, wash, and a dry brush. Like, I'm not going to do that, right? So I wanted this thing to look good. So when I got into this thing, that's when the struggles really kind of started to work themselves into my plan. Unplanned. I just got to tell you guys right off the bat, never use a new product or a new paint or new tool on something that you're going to be putting out in a video in the public eye, or even a competition model or anything like that. I made that mistake, and I spent a good hour probably trying to correct my inexperience with this product. I now have since taught a few classes on it and painted on many other models with it in the last week. It's Creature Caster's transparent Monument Pro Acryl transparent line. After months of waiting for this thing to come back in stock and finally getting it in my hands, I was like a kid on Christmas morning, and I was so excited to use it. But I had never painted a 3D model. There you go. Never do something with a medium pizza. Never paint on a material you've never painted on before. I'm not going to go and paint on parchment after painting on sealed canvas for years and expect the same results. So 3D printed material has its own challenges that I'm not necessarily going to get into, because that's not what this video is about necessarily. But I was expecting my glazes to react in a way that I'm used to painting quality plastic and resin models. That's not the case, and I spent about an hour trying to overcompensate and test out and figure out how to get this paint to react in a way that I'm comfortable with or used to on this model. And eventually, after about an hour, I had found that happy medium where I could get it to do the things I wanted to, and I was really happy with how it had produced. And like I had said, since working on miniatures that I'm used to, the materials that I'm used to, I'm in love with this paint, frankly. Don't start on something and use new materials. That's bad. Maybe kind of test those new things out off to the side on a test print, test anything. That way you can get the feel for things and understand how they're going to work, so there's no surprises cutting an hour into your timeline there. You also want to use the appropriate tools for the project. I use the Game Envy hobby holder obsessively. The thing is a staple in my repertoire, in my toolage, if you will. And I put this miniature, which is, I think, a 54 millimeter scale miniature, onto the 60 millimeter hook. And it fit, but he's got that axe kind of up in his right hand that just protrudes just above that 60 millimeter mark. And unfortunately, I had paid attention to it for a couple of hours. Unfortunately, I got kind of tired and I rotated the mini and off popped the axe, right? So I knew it was touching that hook, that stability bar. But because of my fatigue and whatnot, I had a lapse in judgment and it went flying. And so now I had to spend time figuring out, because I had never glued a 3D printed model. So I didn't know how it was going to react to the super glue. I didn't know anything about it. So I had to glue this thing, wait for it to cure, and now, on top of that, I have to repaint all of the area that I had painted where it broke off. Not a huge deal, but still a mistake that I had to compensate for. So, bottom line, you really just want to kind of set yourself some realistic goals. I had never done this before, so I figured 6 hours would be legit. But if I wanted to be kind of a softie, if you will, I would have given myself 8 hours, but I don't feel like that would have been a challenge enough. So I decided on 6 instead of 8 to really push myself. I really don't know what to tell you as far as what a realistic goal is. That's for you to have that internal conversation with yourselves. The next thing is, it's okay to concede to your flaws. There are certain situations where I paint a mini and maybe I nick like the underside of his hand where he's holding his weapon. That's going to drive me nuts as an OCD perfectionist. So I've got to go back and paint that, repaint that, or clean it off or whatever. When in reality, nobody's really going to see that in a display model or even a D&D tabletop model, whatever. So I should be able to leave that. But in past instances, that's a struggle for me to leave something like that where somebody might flip that model over and see it and think less of me. So I'd go back and clean it up and repaint it and do this and do that, and that's time consuming. So you have to be able to concede to those flaws and let them go. Leave those minor flaws and learn from them later. It's all about your muscle memory. You keep doing this stuff. You keep doing the repetitions, if you will. You'll be able to execute certain situations. If you look at a mini that I painted 3 years ago versus one that I painted yesterday, you're going to see a considerably cleaner job today than 3 years ago. It's like coloring in the lines, right? When you first start coloring as a kid, my 2-year-old doesn't color in the lines at all. I'm sure you can see some of his scribbling on the construction material in the back there. Kid has no idea what he's doing, but by the time he's 20, he's going to be able to draw perfect circles and God knows who what, right? It's that muscle memory. So make sure that you're taking the time to concede to those flaws when you're trying to achieve something like this. It's okay to mess up. We all mess up. Before you start, you're going to want to have a basic color plan. I never do this. I'm terrible at this, and I'm now telling people to do it. I know, hypocritical duff. I knew that I wanted the skin tone to be kind of a dark purple to a gray. I knew that I wanted it to look quintessentially undead, if you will. And I knew I was going to do those souls kind of with the redder, fleshy tone underneath the purple, or on top of the purples, I should say. I had no clue what I was going to do with his armor. I had no clue what I was going to do with any other part of that, and I kind of just flew by the seat of my pants. As I was painting the different colors, I'd kind of plan out the next one, and maybe in a piece like this, that's not the best idea to do. It would have taken me 10 minutes of prep time to kind of take a plastic card or something and paint out a basic scheme on here. To take and do something like that will lay the groundwork in your head to kind of make a roadmap so you can move quicker and you understand where you're going to put this paint. Kind of going back to conceding to your flaws, I want you guys to understand that you're going to make mistakes, and that's just how it is. Sergio makes mistakes. Sam makes mistakes. Ruben makes mistakes. We all make mistakes, right? And it's up to us to kind of understand that, prepare for them, prepare to recover from them. For example, the flames. I'm not very good at painting fire. I didn't want to do traditional fire on this. I wanted to kind of show a magical sense to it. So I knew I was going to paint the flames green, and I knew I wanted to use Monument Jade in there. Naturally, using green, I got to start with my favorite Monument color, the bright yellow green. I love that color. So it should have went bright yellow green, green, jade. Unfortunately, I got super excited, and I completely base coated 2 layers of jade on the entirety of the flame. That's a mistake. You're supposed to start with the light color and end with the darkest. Regular flames would be yellow, orange, red, black tips, right? So now I had to spend, 45 minutes putting 3 layers of bright yellow green back over the jade and then glaze in my flame transitions. So I had to concede to that, understand that I was making this mistake, and correct it. Be prepared to correct that mistake and recover. Despite having some of those issues and some of those realities, I did have some successes in this paint job. I painted a mid-sized model in 7.5 hours, and that should be viewed as a success for me. For someone who paints slowly, that's not easy. That's not something that just comes along. To put myself up against that 6-hour goal, sure, I didn't make that, but I'm still proud that I did this quality of a paint job in 7.5 hours. That's really kind of a big thing for me. Tandem to that is the fact that I painted something that I'm proud of. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your work. There's a little bit of pressure trying to display somebody else's work with your own work. And I feel that I did a fine job displaying the great work that Lee does with Mini Monster Mayhem Patreon. I think his models are amazing, and to give it a paint job that I'm proud of, that's a success to me. I really just set out, put the spotlight on a new sculptor. Lee only just went live December of 2019 with his Patreon, so he's been in this 6 months, and he's just growing exponentially. His work is amazing, and the following is proving it in such a short time. Some of these creators wait years to hit the level of success that he's hit. I'm really happy for him. He's a good dude. So I think that's another success, another achievement of mine, was to kind of be able to platform somebody who's new and help him grow and achieve his goals, if you will, of creating content full time for us to enjoy. The best achievement of all, I had a lot of fun doing this paint job. Honestly, I had a ton of fun with this. So the first thing I wanted to let you guys know is simply, this is not a paid sponsorship video. Lee and I had reached out to each other out of pure admiration for each other's work and decided to kind of do a cross promo type thing together as friends. We're strictly doing this, no money, no nothing, just I like your work, you like my work, let's do something together. He really seems to be doing this for the love of the sculpting and the art, which I really admire. When I first saw it, he had some of the nicest sculpts I've seen. I've seen dozens and dozens of Patreon campaigns based around getting STL files every month. This one, the details just set themselves apart. He's not doing your cookie cutter Amazons or your cookie cutter steampunk crap. This was really cool individual pieces that I was really inspired by. And as a benefit, they came pre-supported. I consider myself a noob to 3D printing. I understand the supporting process, but to save me that time to have a pre-supported file was huge. I really gave extra points for that. And because of that, it's extremely beginner-friendly. And the fact that it's affordable is just another huge bonus. And I had touched on the fact that he's only been around since December of 2019. His growth in followers, as well as his growth as an artist, is just insanely impressive in that short amount of time. I can't say enough good things about him and his Patreon campaign, and I can confidently tell you all, definitely go check out Miniature Monster Mayhem on Patreon, and consider backing him, because he's a great artist and he deserves it. And I really appreciate what he's doing. That's all I got for you guys. I really appreciate you checking out the video. I've got some freaking huge things coming down the line here in about a month or so. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button, bell, whatever it is. It would mean a lot to me, help me out big time as I continue to make this my full-time job. Of course, I'll put a link to Mini Monster Mayhem's Patreon down below in the description, as well as a link to my own Patreon if you're looking for some help painting miniatures or any type of one-on-one coaching. That's something that I excel at, something that I offer in my Patreon campaign, and I would really appreciate it if you checked it out as well. Lastly, I've definitely got to put a big shout out to my patrons. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this stuff. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your support. The campaign's growing, and I'm humbled. I really appreciate all of your support. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, share it with a friend or two. Help get the word out as I try to grow this channel. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next one.